Some say he drags them away. Some say he eats them. Before the candles are lit, before the bells ring, before the first wrapped gift changes hands, there is a night when the streets belong to something older. Picture a winter town in the Alps, snow packed hard underfoot, breath hanging in the air like smoke, church windows glowing warm and gold, while the rest of the world holds its breath in darkness. Somewhere beyond that last row of houses, cowbells begin to clang, not rhythmically, not politely, but wildly, as if shaken by creatures who don't care whether you're ready or not. And then they come. Fur-clad figures surge into the streets, horns scraping the night sky, masks carved into snarls that seem too alive to be wood. Their eyes burn red behind slits, their mouths gape wide, tongues lolling, chains dragging over stone. Children shriek, and scatter. Adults laugh, then flinch, then laugh again. They stutter. Because fear, when you know it's coming, can almost feel like a celebration. This is not Halloween. This is not a costume party. This is Krampusnacht, and Krampus is coming to get you. When we think of Christmas nowadays, we imagine warmth without threat, soft lights, kindness without consequences, Santa Claus as a gentle grandfather who asks nothing of us except belief. But that version of Christmas is actually a recent invention, polished smooth by advertising, stripped of the teeth and shadows, because for centuries, winter carried danger, hunger, cold, death. And the stories people told during the darkest nights of the year reflected that truth. Christmas was not only about joy, it was about judgment. Krampus exists in that older moral universe. He is not misunderstood. He is not redeemable. He is not meant to be comforting. Krampus is the punishment that walks. Descriptions of him vary, but the essentials remain. Horns curling like a goat's, cloven hooves striking sparks from stone, a body matted in black or brown fur, fangs, bloodshot eyes, a tongue too long for any human mouth, chains clanking as he moves, sometimes said to represent the church's attempt to bind pagan forces, sometimes simply there to make sure you hear him coming. In his hands, Krampus carries birch branches, the same kind once used to discipline children. Across his back, a sack or basket. And inside that sack, according to the old stories, go the children who were not merely naughty, but truly bad. The ones who lied, stole, disobeyed, or showed cruelty. Some versions say that Krampus beats these children. Some say he drags them away. Some say he eats them. No matter the ending, the message is the same. Behave, or winter will take you. The name Krampus likely comes from the German Krampen, meaning claw, a blunt description for a creature whose job is to grab, seize, and remove. His origins stretch far beyond Christmas, into the pre-Christian religions of the Alpine world, belief systems shaped by mountains, forests, and long, merciless winters. Long before nativity scenes and church bells, midwinter was a time when boundaries blurred between the living and the dead, between humans and spirits, between order and chaos. Masked figures appeared in winter festivals across Europe, embodying demons, ghosts, animal spirits, forces that could not be banished, only appeased. Krampus may be one of these ancient figures given a new name and role. Some traditions link him to Hel. Not that Hel. Hel, the Norse ruler of the underworld, placing him firmly in a cosmology where death was not evil, just inevitable. Others see Krampus as part of a broader family of winter spirits, cousins to the Perchten, masked figures who chased away evil and restless ghosts with noise, fire, and fear. The irony is that Krampus was never meant to be the villain of a story. That role belonged to winter itself. When Christianity spread through the Alpine regions, it faced a similar problem. Very familiar and very old-rooted. People would not abandon their old gods and rituals just because a new faith arrived in town. So instead, the church adapted, absorbed, reframed. Pagan figures were not erased. They were just reclassified. Krampus became a devil. And then he was put to work. By the Middle Ages, Krampus had been paired with Saint Nicholas, the 4th century bishop, whose reputation for generosity would eventually evolve into Santa Claus. On December 6th, St. Nicholas Day, the saint visited homes to reward good children with sweets and small gifts. The night before, December 5th, belonged to Krampus. In other words, Krampusnacht. Together, these two formed a perfect moral system: reward and punishment, mercy and consequence, light and shadow. As one Austrian organizer would later put it, Krampus was the yin to St. Nicholas's yang. St. Nicholas entered homes quietly, blessing children and leaving treats in shoes by the door. Krampus followed in his wake, rattling chains, swinging birch branches, reminding everyone that goodness mattered precisely because something terrible waited on the other side of bad behavior. In Alpine towns, this wasn't abstract folklore. It was theater, ritual, community discipline made flesh. Young men donned heavy fur suits and hand-carved wooden masks, some passed down through generations. Cowbells were strapped to their waists, chains wrapped around their arms. Faces were hidden so completely that the line between person and monster vanished. They ran through the streets, chased villagers, knocked on doors, roared into windows. Children screamed. Parents laughed, sometimes nervously, knowing this fear was part of the lesson. And it worked. Not because children truly believed they would be eaten, but because Krampus made morality physical, tangible, loud, impossible to ignore. The church, however, was less amused. As Christianity consolidated power, figures that resembled devils became politically inconvenient. Krampus looked too much like Satan. He embodied chaos. He refused to be controlled. Repeated attempts were then made to suppress Krampus celebrations, particularly from the 1100s and onward. None fully succeeded. Even in the 20th century, Krampus remained controversial. In 1934, Austria's own conservative Christian Social Party, operating under a rising tide of authoritarianism, attempted to stamp Krampus out once again. Newspapers described him as immoral, politically subversive, even socialist. Officials banned Krampus dances. Police were ordered to arrest anyone dressed as the devil. Playing Santa Claus required a license. Krampus, once again, was too unruly for those in power. And once again, he survived. By the late 20th century, something unexpected happened. Krampus came back, not as a disciplinary tool for children, but as a cultural release valve for adults. In a world of mass-produced holidays and relentless cheer, he offered something more transgressive, something honest. Krampus didn't sell perfection, he sold catharsis. Krampuslof, the Krampus Run, experienced a revival across Austria, Germany, Slovenia, Hungary, and the Czech Republic. Entire clubs formed, some with decades of history, others brand new. Salzburg alone would eventually count over 180 Krampus groups, many founded after 1990. The parades grew louder, larger, more theatrical. Masks became more elaborate, some terrifying works of folk art, others grotesque, humorous, or deliberately excessive. Bells rang, fire burned, alcohol flowed. Occasionally, things did go a little too far. Fights broke out, spectators were injured, and debates reignited over whether Krampus had become too frightening. But that tension was nothing new. Krampus had always existed at the edge of acceptability. When refugees from Syria and Afghanistan arrived in the Alpine towns in the 2010s, for example, concerns surfaced again. Would these monstrous parades traumatize the newcomers unfamiliar with the tradition? Some towns considered toning things down. Others chose education instead, inviting refugee families to learn about the costumes, the rituals, the meaning behind the fear. The solution then was not to erase Krampus, it was to explain him. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Krampus was discovering a second life. In the United States, he became a symbol of rebellion against what many saw as an over-sanitized holiday season. Krampus festivals arrived in cities like Portland, Philadelphia, and Orlando. Horror fans embraced him. Artists reimagined him. Comic books, films, and elaborate costumes followed. For some, Krampus was a joke. For others, he reflected a protest. For many, he was a reminder that Christmas once had teeth. As one enthusiast put it, when everything becomes sweet, some people crave salt. So Krampus provides that salt. He reminds us that folklore was never just entertainment. It was instruction, social glue, a way of making sense of fear in a world that offered no guarantees. In older Christmas traditions, ghosts walked, demons roamed, and moral reckoning was unavoidable. Think about this when Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol, a ghost story, not a greeting card. Krampus belongs to that same lineage. He's not meant to replace anyone's joy. He just gives it some contrast, because the light only really stands out when darkness is real. And perhaps that is why Krampus endures to this day. Not because we believe he will come for us or that he will eat the children, but because some part of us knows consequences exist, whether we name them or not. Behavior matters. Indulgence without restraint just becomes hollow. And winter, literal or metaphorical, still demands respect. So when the bells ring and the fur-clad figures surge through snowy streets, something ancient stirs. A recognition older than religion, older than nations, a memory of a time when stories were tools for survival. So if you ever find yourself in an alpine town on a cold December night and you hear chains dragging across stone, don't look for Santa. That comes later. First comes the reckoning, because somewhere in the dark, behind a carved wooden grin and a pair of curling horns, Krampus is watching, and he remembers what you did this year.